Minimalists.
How do we teach our children to politely accept compliments on clothing, but not use fashion as social status or a bonding mechanism?
So speaking of high school.
Yeah. Wow.
And so, I haven't faced this yet. My daughter's only 7, and she loves wearing...
I want a Gucci purse.
Yeah, right. Oh, I will strangle the life out of you. No, she loves wearing like real flowy dresses, so like everything is just functional for her. Like she'll go rock climbing in a dress, because she likes nature and she likes dresses. And I think in a way it's almost like we need to get back to that childhood mindset of like, is this appropriate for what I'm doing and do I enjoy it? And now as parents we have to steer Elle in the right direction, like, hey young lady, go put some underwear on. But also there is this time where kids do start to get their identity, their social status. And we talked about this a few weeks ago, Ryan. We had the guy from Preachers and Sneakers. Are you familiar with this account? Okay.
No,
so
great.
it's
I saw the episode though.
Okay, yeah.
Sneaker.
Right.
Yeah. So the reason he had the sneaker over his face is he's still anonymous. Like he has to be anonymous for now. He's gotten death threats and a bunch of others because he's exposed this entire
Christians
subculture.
giving him death threats.
Yeah, I mean, which is weird because like what I love is he's turned his comment section on Instagram. It's just at Preachers and Sneakers. Check it out. So what he started doing was he realized, because he's a Christian and he was like, he's going to church, and he felt like he felt conflicted because he saw that there were like some pastors wearing like $1,000 fear of God sneakers, and it was like, wait a minute, like I'm giving my money to the church. And so all he did is he started this Instagram account just for his friends, and he would take a picture of the person already posted online, so it was already there. It was a preacher, and they would have, it was like Chad Veach or something, and he'd be wearing $700 Gucci shoes, and he would just put a snapshot from the website, like StockX or whatever website those shoes were on, and he would say, and no commentary. Like it was just, here's the preacher, here is the sneakers they're wearing.
Here's how much their outfit
cost.
is worth. Yeah.
Yeah, and Ryan and I had a whole discussion, and I was trying to be charitable to what they were doing, and we had a whole sort of debate around that. And so I'm not going to rehash that debate, but what I'll say is that often our fashion, we try to use that as a shortcut toward our relationships. But of course there aren't shortcuts, because if you just put a facade on a rotting house, the house is still going to fall apart. If you are nothing beneath the fashion, then even with the fashion, you're still nothing. You still have nothing to contribute until you have something to contribute.
There's something there like, your fashion should strengthen your relationships, not be your relationships. And I look back at high school when Tommy Hilfiger was cool. Actually, it was cool again for a minute.
Yeah, for about 6 months, right?
Right, a couple years ago. But yeah, I went out of my way to wear certain brands, thinking that was gonna make me a cool kid, and maybe I look cool.
Mid-90s.
Yeah, maybe I look cool, but what made me cool was me. I was a cool person. Tell him, Josh. No, yeah. How do you get a kid though to like not look at those brand names to be?
Oh man.
And I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know.
because if I had kids, I certainly wouldn't just buy them every brand name that they wanted. I would encourage them, like, hey, look, if you want to own a pair of Gucci sneakers, like, you're gonna have to work to get those. So I wouldn't discourage them from working hard and buying something that they want. But I also wouldn't just give it to. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
To it. I think so. I actually did that. So remember, I dressed really well in high school. I spent an absurd amount of my own money. We grew up really poor, but then by the time I was 14, I was able to get a job, and so. I remember I was making $4.25 an hour. I was like, this is more money than I'll ever need. and at the end of the summer, I had all this money saved up. I just went to the mall and bought clothes with it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's okay if your kid wants to go out and earn the money to buy their own clothes, but here's what I wish would have happened. I wish there would have been a way to communicate with me at the time that, hey, you're going to buy some of these things, but why are you buying it? And I think quite often we're not asking kids these questions and actually making them explain themselves. Why are you buying this?
Yeah.
It's
Who are
just-
you buying this for?
Right, and not in a way that's accusatory or judging, but in a way that is actually inquisitive, and because we need to be able to ask those same questions of ourselves, right? And so, what behavior are you modeling for your kids as well? You can be stylish without brand names, without logos. In fact, have you talked to your kid about, well, are you paying for the privilege of advertising for that corporation, for Tommy Hilfiger or Nike or whoever, or are they paying you? Well, the answer is obvious. They should be paying you. You're wearing a giant logo of a horse on your shirt or whatever.
Yeah.
But the truth is you're paying them for the privilege of being a walking billboard for that company. Are
Yeah.
you being used and manipulated by that company? And you're wearing it because your other friends are wearing it. Well, why are your other friends wearing it? And so we start asking these questions. We get to the why, and then the why behind the why. All of a sudden, it doesn't mean it's going to change their behavior or their desires necessarily, but it might make them think differently about how they're going to spend their money on those things.
Ron, do you have any advice for your former self? Like when you think about the clothes you had with tags on it, the sneakers, like is there anything you think you could have told yourself back then to help you prevent from buying that? Because I'm trying. That's what I'm asking myself right now.
I honestly, no. I think I just had to go through it,
Yeah.
to be completely honest. And to be honest with myself as well, because there were times where I went out to buy, just say I was going to hang out with friends, and I wanted to buy something just to hang out with friends. And me standing here and being able to admit that honestly sounds crazy, but it's true. You know, I would go out and say, you know, I'll go buy a new pair of jeans just to wear this day because I didn't like the jeans I already had.
Yeah.
And that's how I ended up with things with tags on them or things I only wore once. And, you know, buying shoes because somebody else had these pair of shoes and I wore them once and they sat in the box. So I think there's nothing I could have said because I had to learn it on my own.
Yeah.
You know, my dad would tell me all the time various life lessons. He would always tell me, remember who you are and whose you are. And and various other statements he would tell me and my brother. But regardless of those life lessons he taught us, we still had to experience things to learn them. So I think I had to go through that to figure it out for myself.
In some cases, I mean, that might be the best answer.
Yeah.
It's like let your kid go through
Just
it.
go through it.
Yeah. I mean, the only
But you can still ask those questions.
Of course.
And because if they still go through it, they may start asking the questions of themselves sooner if they're exposed to this alternate point of view, this if they're exposed to the truth.
So I guess what I'm saying is after you kind of give your kids this wisdom, it's up to them whether or not they want to use it. I mean, your job as a parent to set boundaries is to impart your wisdom on them, but ultimately, yeah, sometimes they're going to have to go through it. I think the other question I'd add, I would also or have my child ask is if you didn't own these clothes, would your friends still be your friends?
Yep.
Because I think maybe that might have done something for me when I was in high school, but I kind of look at it like you do, Ron. Like in high school, I don't think it doesn't matter what you would have told me. I'd been like, no, I'm going to spend $120 on these Tommy Hilfiger jeans because that's what everyone else is wearing.
Yep.
But the truth is that your friends would have been your friends.
Absolutely.
And you know, I think about, you know, our little group. We there was 4 of us, me and Jerome, my brother, and then Ryan and his best friend Pacho. And we look like a Harvard diversity poster. And so like there was the 4 of us, and like Jerome was probably by default the coolest of the group.
Yeah.
But he never wore. He didn't care about brand. He would often wear my shirt. He never cared about.
That is so
he
true.
wore Levi's.
It was you, me, and Pacho who always cared.
And he wore like baggy T-shirts from Walmart or Big Bear or wherever.
He could get away with that because he could kick anyone's ass. In high
Right.
school. That's what
Yeah,
it
that's
was.
just true. But so my point is that like that's actually what cool used to be. When you go back, look at the Rolling Stones. You couldn't say what brand of anything. They were like the super. You know, they were the cool people of their period, right? And you move forward, and even you look at early hip hop culture. You couldn't go and figure out what the brands were. It wasn't until very recently that we started valuing brands and branding. I mean, think about that term, branding.
Yeah.
That's what we do to cattle, and yet we're doing it to ourselves. There's a new Jack Harlow song. I used to really like Jack Harlow, but I don't like him anymore.
Why not?
Well, just his music.
That first album was amazing.
He has this album called Gazebo, which he's from Louisville, Kentucky.
Dude, it's Matt Carney's thing, where you got your whole life to write your first album.
Yeah. It's a perfect classic album, underground. No one's heard it.
Yeah.
And then he like just started taking on the new waves. He has this line in this new song of his, talking about how he got the shoe deal with New Balance, and now I'll do anything that New Balance says. And I'm like, that's the problem.
Right.
Yeah. You're putting a brand in your song, and you're also saying, I will do it anything. Oh, so they're your master now? I'll do anything.
Does he intend that as a lesson, or is he like...
No, it's a brag. It was trying to be a humble brag. I'm like, that's the wrong brag, buddy.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, you are a shill for a corporation. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I don't feel. I look at anyone who embodied cool previous to recently, and it was never about the clothing they wore. The clothing was cool because of the person who was wearing it. The person wasn't cool because of the clothes they were wearing.